usually have doubts about facing the interviews and the challenges which they face while entering inside the industry. So this is Shrutilaya from Institute of Aeronautical Engineering Training and Placement Officer, and we have Nageswar Rao Sir Garu, who is a product leader at Informa, a UK listed company. Also, he runs Hands On Hub, which is a consulting company, works on technology and product management. He also has 20 years of work experience, which includes 10 years as an entrepreneur and 10 years in product development and management. He has mentored many engineering students, working professionals, and the freshers who are preparing for the interviews. So we welcome you, sir, to the Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So, sir, on this platform, we would like to know from you that how should students approach campus interviews?
So, the reason this question even arises is because there is gap in terms of what student perceives as being conducted as a campus interview and his expectations from the campus interview and how well he is prepared. So, there are significant gaps in it. The reason number one is that there is a preconceived notion that there is a selection process and it is like a Herculean task, and probably something like you're attending an Olympics game and you have to actually do your best on that. And this creates a lot of self-created hurdles, and then that's one thing why people actually think about preparing for campus interviews. The second thing that happens is there is obviously gaps between what industry wants from you or that particular company wants from you and what you are really today. And these gaps, the moment you either realize it yourself or your teachers or mentors tell you, and these gaps widen up, and that creates another mental block in terms of, hey, you know what, Infosys is coming to attend, coming to our campus and they are going to take our interviews. And then I myself believe that I have these gaps, or my friend thinks so, or my senior thinks so, or my teacher thinks so. So when you realize that there are gaps, and then that becomes a hurdle instead of becoming an improvement area, it becomes a hurdle, and then you would find it difficult that to cross that you don't know what efforts are needed, which direction are needed, and that's another mind block that gets created as soon as you say there is a campus interview that's going to happen. The third thing in terms of preparedness, where do you figure out what is the standard methodology? For example, if you want to learn maths, you would probably go figure out maths formulas and then apply. There is a standard procedure in terms of preparedness. When it comes to campus interviews, the preparedness, there is no a step-by-step formula or step-by-step procedure that one would go through to prepare for campus interviews. And since there is a lack of such a procedure, what would happen is that person will start, I know that there are gaps. Someone told me that there are gaps and there is no standard procedure on which I can improve upon. And so the hurdle becomes even bigger. Now I think there is a problem and there is no standard way of improving, and then it becomes another problem.
Yeah.
And these are the problems that one would face the moment you say, hey, there is a campus interview that's coming up. How do you approach campus interview, or how do you approach any selection process? If you look at, is the best way is to actually talk to your seniors who went through that. And the fundamental reason is you already know them before they attend the campus interviews. They're already in that. So they know you better, and you start talking to them. It could be a mentor, it could be your brother, it could be a friend, relative, someone who's already working, and then you approach them with the open mind saying that, you know what, I think I have these bottlenecks, or my teacher thinks these are the bottlenecks I have. How do I approach, how do I solve those problems and all that? More often than not, what comes out is these mind blocks that's created in the student's mind are essentially blocking the student from actually preparing for campus interviews. Of course, there is a serious preparation required. It's not that just because I realized that there is no problem, preparation is not required. That's not the case. Preparation is seriously required, and preparation is the first preparation, which is 50% of that, is essentially to figure out that there are going to be gaps, and then you can easily cross these gaps the moment you realize that which gaps are there. Number one thing that you need to prepare is your mindset, basically. If you look at major achievements, or any achievement in this world, are done twice. For example, Neeraj Chopra won this javelin throw gold medal. We believe that he's done it once, but he's done it twice.
Yes.
First time is when he actually thought that I can throw this javelin at a far distance, I can be a gold winner. The moment he thought and he believed that he is going to do that or he can do that, that's 50% of win. and the other 50% is built on that self-belief, saying that on that day I will do this, and it would require probably a good diet from him, good exercise from him, motivation from him, daily practicing that. There are multiple things. The moment you have a self-belief that I will be able to do this, you cross the first hurdle and important hurdle, which is it is 50% of the problem. So
Thank you, sir. You said that 50% self belief should be there. What about the other 50%? How they have to create that 50% as a self belief?
yeah. So if someone believes that I will be able to win it, and it's not an easy task. Even before I come to your 50%, I think I should stress upon how you create this self-belief in terms of, because if you believe that you will not get selected in TCS, Infosys, Wipro, there is no way the other 50% is going to help. So
Correct.
let me take a step back and then say, how does this first 50% contribute to this, right? Uh, for you to believe that you will be able to get selected, you need to put in very, very, very honest effort, and that effort should be, it has to be done in such a way that there is no other way in this world that you will start believing you will not get into that campus interview. For example, it could be waking up every day at 6 o'clock. You are a late waker. You wake up at 8 o'clock. You have to create a schedule saying that since I'm preparing for this campus interview, I will create a schedule at 6 o'clock. I'll wake up. And when you do these small things, like I am waking, because I'm preparing for campus interview, I will wake up at 6 o'clock. It has nothing to do with that. But the moment you do small things continuously, correctly, consistently, what would happen is that your belief in saying that, hey, you know what? The moment I said I'll get, since I'm appearing for Infosys, I'll wake up at 6 o'clock and consistently doing it. You start creating these beliefs. It could be something like, you know what, I'm an avid coffee drinker. Until I get selected in that, I will not drink coffee. Okay. You have to create small things, and then when you win these small games, your self-belief will go up. For example, it could be a diet routine. It could be an exercise routine. You have to create those things. That helps you create confidence in yourself, and that reflects on the other day, and you have to link up. The best thing is, since I am going to prepare for Infosys, I will wake up at, or any campus interview, I'll wake up at 6 o'clock, 6 to 6:30. I will do this, and it is best that is related to something to do with that preparation. You do it daily, consistently, your self-belief really goes up.
So it means that they have to put some self-target for anything, for reaching anything.
Correct. It could be anything. It could be very weird things like I will not drink something. So what would happen that is your mind consciously is telling you that you're not doing this, you're doing this, and it runs, it really keeps coming to you, and then you have to achieve small wins. Only small wins will take you to the bigger win, which in this case, in this example, is a campus interview selection. Coming to the second 50% is after like you're doing your best in terms of creating this self-belief. The remaining 50% is essentially creating routines around getting selected. Better thing is to ask seniors, ask your friends who got selected into Infosys or any company, for example, Wipro, TCS. You ask them how is the selection process happening. You have a fantastic placement, so they approach you and then say, hey, what happened in the last? How many people were selected? How many people were not selected?
Yes.
What are their reasons shared? So when you know this, you start writing them saying that, you know what, so many people attended, so many were accepted, so many were rejected. Rejected reasons are these.
Yes.
Then you create routines around that saying that, okay, Infosys or TCS or Wipro, the selection process is this.
Yeah.
In this selection process, they look at this and how do I improve upon this particular. And you have to schedule half an hour every day. It could be before bed, it could be immediately after that, because that's when you will not be distracted by anything. Your mobile away, and then you work on it half an hour before bed, half an hour after bed. You focus on that, and you dedicate that particular time for every section. For example, one of those interviews that some companies do is a technical interview where they ask about your project.
Yeah.
Now, it is important that you understand your project as much as the best expert in the world today. You have to understand so well, or at least you need to understand your limitations on why you could not do it, and if you can cross it, that's even better.
Yeah. Sir, as you said, like they have to find out their gaps. How to find out gaps in themselves?
Okay. Finding gaps is obviously very difficult. The best of the people in the world today will not be able to figure out gaps in them. So, having said that, what we need to do is there is a self-assessment that always happens.
Yes.
For example, when I am talking here, or when you're asking questions, or someone's you go approach, you're trying something, there is always self-assessment. That self-assessment comes from preconceived notions, saying that either I believe that I'll do superior job or I believe I'll do inferior job.
Yes.
So that self-assessment needs to be done, and then you have to have clear conscience in terms of, hey, this is not correct. I have done this previously. I have attended 4 sessions. I've done decently well, and then there's always your well-wishers, your circle of influence, and people who can come and then give you honest opinion. You look at that, and it creates, it gives a broad, like 360-degree feedback that industry uses today. If people reporting to you, people you report to, and people outside of your company, when they give feedback, it gives a wholesome picture on these are the gaps that they have.
Yeah.
And if you're attending it to a specific company, it is better to have a senior who's already placed or someone who's already in that, and then say, you know what, you selected to the same process. I'm doing this, and this is what I think. Can you help me on this? That is a good move.
Yeah. Continuing with this, there are some students who will be doing so much of work before attending the interview. But then doing all these things also, they could not crack that interview. There are some issues like they have to face with. And once they get rejected with the company, for example, let us take, if they got rejected from Infosys, they got rejected from TCS, students will feel little bit betrayed, and they'll not, they'll feel a little bit low, and they feel like, I cannot crack any of the interview. What do you suggest to such kind of people, such kind of students?
Yeah, that is true. And in fact, there is no reason why they should not feel rejected. They should feel that, but they have to understand that not every successful person goes through the same company to become
Yes,
that. And,
yes.
they might attend another company. You might have done all your best. You might have done fantastic on the day of interview, and still you feel that you're not selected. It happens. I mean,
Yes.
that is reality. You have to understand. That is a reality. So you have to understand that there are multiple paths to success. And if I look at myself, like what happened, let me share some examples here. Some people who did their engineering along with me, who did their MBA along with me, at that point of time, they faced terrible disasters in terms of not just not getting selected in a company, but things that they were always dreamt of, like writing GRE and getting it. So they could not do it. But today, if I look at it, they are doing fantastically well. They're very well off. They've gone to services companies. They are now green card holders in USA, and I'm very, very happy with their life, the way they work, and they're contributing fantastically in technology and in their domains of work.
Yeah.
So they're doing fantastic. So if one campus interview fails, you have to understand that it's not 100-meter sprint that you start, you win, and that's you will not doing a Usain Bolt work, right? You have to be successful on that day. Olympics gold, you have to win. If it's not there, then there's nothing after it. How many people who, for example, participate in the Olympics who are really good and could not win medals, right? So it happens. But that one interview should not define your future, should not define. You can feel that's actually right emotion also. As a human being, you wanted something, it did not happen, you feel that. But you have to stop at that and then consider other options that you have. The moment, not just campaign to, otherwise also the way you accept failure, the way you plan next steps.
Yeah.
And then that's what takes you to a definite success rather than feeling bad about it and continuing it. Everyone comes back. Out of 900 people, 99.99 people will essentially give up and give that bad emotion back and then start with new life. It is important to give up that as early as possible, realizing that that's not the only thing that you can do in life.
Yeah. One more point is like there are some students who could not crack interview in the campus placement, but once they move out, how can they approach the company for getting the job after their graduation?
Okay, I understand. So basically, you're saying someone has passed out their engineering,
Yes.
they could not crack it, or
Yes.
it could be other way around. Industry was not well, they did not come for campus,
Yes.
or for whatever reasons the college was not doing well that year.
Correct.
Whatever reason. So,
Correct.
see, if you look at on campus is the best way of getting in, because from the company's perspective, it is an easy way of recruiting. You know the standard process, you know the quality of students. You have some students already joined you and then they're performing well. Their managers would have given feedback saying that I'm happy with this person. And so what HR does is think that, okay, these students who came from IARE or any other college are really doing well. So now let's go back to that college.
Yes.
That's the easiest way of getting into company. Having said that, for those exceptional scenarios that we discussed, it could be for whatever reasons I could not attend because I was not well. I could not attend.
Yes.
So when you're doing an off-campus, it is a little difficult to compare to on-campus.
Yes.
So what you have to do is you have to approach companies one-on-one, and then make yourself available to internships.
Yes.
Internships,
Yes.
paid, unpaid, that's all fine. You have to look at getting into internships, making yourself available. And the better thing is to approach all HRs and then saying that. And today, what happens is the industry is really doing well, and HRs are approachable in multiple social media forms, be it
Yes.
LinkedIn. So you approach them and then say, hey, I want to be available, work with your esteemed company. When you tell that, HRs get these requests like what,
Correct.
100 and 100,000, 10,000 every day
Yes,
they get
number.
such requests. Yeah.
Yes.
So what happens is the way you represent yourself, saying that, hey, you know what, I have this is my profile. I want to get an opportunity to make myself available for evaluation, not just as an intern.
Right.
When you do this honest thing, saying that I want to be available to you for an evaluation, at a right opportunity, when you're there on top of mind, they will call you. That is one. Second thing is there are off campuses that happen for passed outs, and because companies get this mass requirements,
Yes.
especially service company, we need to hire 1,000 freshers for this particular thing, and then
Yes.
they come up, and then you have to be constantly available, keep yourself updated with the latest recruitment that's happening off campus and all that. The other important thing is you have to continuously stay in touch with your placement officer or the team, saying that I could not do this last time, I want to have another opportunity. If company is okay, can you give me that opportunity?
Yes.
So they will also take a humanitarian thing and saying that maybe probably I can give an option when the company is okay with that. That's what I think.
Okay. Having said that, how can they build their profiles once they move out from the campus?
Let me take this interesting question from a student onwards. How do they
Yes,
build a
yes.
profile? Today, it is important that you build your profile on public forums like LinkedIn, and then you start, or other way around is you start contributing to open source projects.
Okay.
There are two things very important, and you create a LinkedIn profile, you start following leaders. For example, you are someone who's interested in programming, you are someone who's interested in design, you are someone who's interested in user experience, multiple things. When you start creating, the beauty of this technology is that you go there and then you search for user experience and you keep reading articles. LinkedIn itself or any other social media forum will start giving you links to these people that they think you should follow. And when you follow, you will know how the topic really goes up.
Yes.
When it goes up, you will start contributing. Your contribution could be a simple like, a simple comment, or simple reshare. So all this, it tells the public that you are someone who is doing all this. And then you will build up a profile, and then you will start. For example, you did a simple. You wanted to redesign Google search page.
Yes.
You're someone who works on one interested in user experience. You wanted to Google search. You think is not doing great job. You want to contribute. Then you write. You design something. You post it on LinkedIn, and then say this is it. And then it becomes part of you. One is you're learning a lot, but you just can't be in a public forum. The beauty of it is that you can't just write anything and then become anything and then can't be expert of it. So you really think. For example, for you to write 4 lines on LinkedIn, you will have to really thinking deep.
Yes.
So when you start doing this right from your college first year or probably second year, you will start creating a profile, and that reflects in your resume.
Yes.
And when campus interviews, HR comes or manager comes, when they look at this, I can tell you that if someone's interviewing and then you say that you have contributed this, and then they look at it, they will ask you very deeper questions. Since you have done a honest job, you answer them better.
Yes.
Your chances of selection are significantly higher. At least I would say 25-30% higher
Correct.
than other people who are not contributing.
Yes.
So that's why it is important to create a profile. Now coming back to your question on how would someone who's passed out start creating their profile?
Yes.
Right? They have gone out. It is very, very important to stay in touch with the work. Touch with the industry. If you passed out in say 2021, which is this year, you just passed out, and then 2022 is when you are like still looking out for a job.
Yes.
In that 1 year, what have you done? It significantly defines, except for health reasons and family reasons, so whatever circumstances happen. If you are actually contributing, actually doing something, when compared with a fresher who has not done, you will be given preference because you have been constantly in touch.
Yes.
The moment you say that, okay, I am a programmer, I have passed out from computer science and engineering, and the last 1 year I have not done programming, that doesn't show well upon HR will say, okay, he's not done anything around it.
Yes.
So whichever area you want to succeed, it could be very weird things like you want to do something in. I remember someone from previous batches who wanted to. He's interested in games industry, and he always wanted to work for a games company because He's excellent. His whole
Right.
world is, he dreams about games, that
Yes.
kind of a person. So he asked this specific question saying that I want to work here. The games companies are not coming. What do I do? See, what you have to specifically do is create your profile on LinkedIn, make yourself available. I'll tell you, since the startup boom is really happening, there are companies which work on very, very specific niches.
Yeah.
For example, there are space companies that are working now. There are gaming companies that are
Yes.
working now.
Yes.
So when you approach them and then you tell that, hey, this is my passion, I really want to work with you, salary being last criteria that I would
Yes,
look at,
yes.
they would definitely give you a chance.
Hmm.
And that's great. Whichever area of work that you have, you should always continuously contribute. For example, this guy wanted to work in gaming industry. He did not get a chance. He continued working in a services company where he was programming. But gaming, he pursued continuously until he got the next opportunity.
Okay.
And that really took him very well.
Yes, correct. So, sir, there are some students who are really interested in IT company, but their graduation is in the civil engineering or non-circuit branches. We say it has non-circuit branches. So, what do you suggest them? So, either to go with the core companies only, or if they have a chance to join an IT company, so you suggest them to join an IT company.
For those, there are two kinds, right? One is, I wanted to do computer science engineering. I could not get seat. I would be
Yes.
honest, because there are only limited seats, and limited seats in good colleges or whatever you want to call it. There are only like 1,000, 2,000 seats computer science, and you could not get it. That's a fair thing. Second thing is, you joined, for example, mechanical or something, that because you had real interest in that. You had great interest in mechanical and you pursued it.
Yes.
There is a third kind. You joined mechanical, you liked it, you went inside, and then you figured out what. I thought mechanical is something else, they're teaching you. All these variations happen. Now, let's look at someone who's got into civil engineering because he liked civil and went inside.
Yes.
He figured out that civil is what he wants to do. My honest thing is, every industry is really doing well. Every industry is doing well.
Yes.
He should get into a job in civil engineering if that's what it interests him, and probably do a master's in that, or probably do a specialized course in that. Now,
Okay.
the other thing that's happening in the industry, if you look at, is that most of the courses, even MIT courses, are available online, either free or with a nominal charges.
Yes.
You don't need to actually take the GREs, the SATs, and all that.
Right.
You can do special courses. In fact, that's what I suggested someone who approached me, a student who did his civil engineering, and then he wanted to be in civil because he thinks his heart is in civil
Yes.
for whatever reason. So I told him that he recently got into NICRA, I think, right?
Nikmar.
NICMAR. He got into NICMAR and he's doing his post-graduation there. I suggested him to do specialization courses, very short courses, for example, 3-month courses in the likes of Harvard and MITs and Carnegie and all that. So when he does this, his interest will someday become, the only reason someone would like something and not do that is he started comparing himself with someone who's got a computer science and is getting paid well.
Yes.
I think that's a thing, but if you look at, after some point of time, you will be enjoying your life well, and then at some point of time, the pay becomes the same, and then you will have an excellent growth. At some
Yes.
point of time, that northward growth, right, hockey stick growth happens.
Yes.
In some industries, it happens very, very early. For example, computer science, as soon as you get in, the starting package is 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs. In some industries, the package is like 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. And after some point of time, when you become an architect, that's when you do it.
Okay.
And it's a personal decision someone should take. So I said that. The second kind of people is, I went into civil engineering, but then I figured out this is not what I thought is civil engineering. And it happens because, why does it happen? Let's look at it. Someone told me that this is civil engineering. I did not understand what he said, and then I went ahead with this. Or I read somewhere in these articles online that this is civil engineering. I went there and then it's completely different. For those people, it is better to get into a different industry.
Right.
Previously, we had this hurdle that when you get in, you have to complete, like you can't shift and all. Some colleges are now providing you can move to a lateral movement is possible.
Yes.
Even if that's not possible, when you attend companies, you have to specifically mention that I joined civil engineering. This was my expectation, but this is what has happened. But you have to show them this is the gap.
Yes.
And why did that gap come, and where were you wrong? You have to tell them I was wrong because I understood civil engineering means actually designing things, but that's what architecture does. I thought it was wrong. My understanding was wrong, and now I want to get into architecture company, if that is an architecture company, or IT, because most of the designs happen in IT now.
Yes.
Right? So you can tell that and since I figured out that this is not happening, I've learned computers in parallel, and you have to sufficiently, create proofs of what you are claiming to be.
Yes,
You could-
whatever they are putting in the resume, they have to justify it.
Correct. And not just that, I mean, they have to also create. For example, you're attending, say, Infosys, which is an IT services company. You are in civil, and Infosys, for example, might not have. They are ready to okay with civil,
Yes.
but you will tell that they will every interview will honestly have this question: why is this guy doing civil and then coming here?
Yes, that's
You have to say that okay for whatever reasons, and these are the courses I have done. I have done this. I have done this. I have done this course from MIT. I have done this course from Stanford, and you have to show your competence in each of these things that you claim.
Yeah.
And they're very, very, very happy. In fact, I would say if you are actually coming out of the way and then proving your thing with sufficient witnesses, interview will be inclined to actually give you a point plus than taking with a computer guy who just came in.
Yeah.
Here you are actually proving a lot of things.
Yeah. Having understanding about the company needs, they have to make themselves ready with it.
No. Yes, company needs is one part of it. I'll probably take up that question a little later. I'm talking about industry access. You don't know you will be attending Infosys at that point of time. But whatever company comes, they will probably ask me something in data structures. They will probably ask me something in algorithms. And then you prepare. These are not in your engineering subjects, but you have these.
Preparing. Yes.
And you have to prepare yourself for complete IT industry. And coming to your question on they have to prepare for Infosys, I think that's a different ball game. Every company expects that the attendee of that particular interview knows some information about them. They want to know where the company is, how many people are there, what are their broad lines, and if they are listed company, are they listed, and which industries are they? They're specifically working in 4 or 5 different industries. For example, say Infosys has a finance product called Finacle. So they expect you to know some basic information about them, and then if there are specialized companies only in gaming industry or only in artificial intelligence or only in space, so they expect what industry is there in, so that they know that okay, this guy knows and then he's interested, he has done his homework.
Yes.
I think that's how they are.
Thank you, sir. So one more question is that there are different companies which come down as a campus recruitment drive. They provide variant salaries. So in what way students should select that different types of salaries and join in that company?
The first thing that a student should understand is that the first few years of their career, in fact, one of my mentors has told me that the first 7 years of your career is very, very important because that's where you really learn a lot.
Right.
So I think that was a fantastic thing someone has ever told me, and I pass on that in batch to the next thing is that next generation is that a student should select a company, a role based on the learning opportunity it provides.
Correct.
For example, if there is a startup that comes up and then provides a fantastic learning opportunity, they should be very, very happily go ahead. They might not be paying well or they might be paying well. It depends on, see, them paying well or not is a reflection of 2 things. One is their requirement at that point of time, their general paying capability also. Their principles that they say, okay, fresher will pay so much and then they go out. But selection should be essentially based on what are the learning opportunities in this particular role.
Yes.
And that should define whether they should attend this interview or not. Hardly anyone, today what happens is almost, I'll tell you an example. Someone who joined exactly on the same day I joined my first company in year 2002. So I joined exactly on the same day. He joined an IT services company, and the idea was that I had a wrong notion that it was not a learning opportunity.
Okay.
But he turned out he learned a lot. In fact, he went to USA as part of that company. He worked there and then significantly led a team, and then he became someone in the delivery space, someone who's done a lot of sales because he's more an extrovert, outgoing guy. And then so hardly there is any role, I would say, which has a lesser learning opportunity. There might be lesser when compared to others. For example, if you are an outbound person, you are a more person who is outbound and then start doing sales, that kind of person, you want to be in services company where you get that kind of exposure. If you are a person who do a lot of R&Ds, create algorithms, you want to get into an R&D role inside a company, a startup company. So for your profile, what is the right place where we can learn those skills that you like?
Right.
I think that's how they should select companies.
Okay.
In fact, I have another point to add to that is that I would suggest students to attend all campuses. In fact, ask the interviewer saying that what will I learn? If you ask them this, what can I expect to learn? Instead of saying what is your salary, if you say, what can I learn in this particular role, or what can I expect out of it, they would love, and then they will spend honest 5-10 minutes explaining what you can learn. Then you can take a decision based on data. Saying that, okay, this guy tells I will learn this guy tells I can learn this.
Yeah.
And then you can take a decision based.
Yeah. It's good, sir. And the other question is like, you being an entrepreneur, what will you suggest to the students who are really interested to be an entrepreneur?
They want to start a startup.
Yes.
Starting a startup is a fantastic thing. One is money being set aside. You will learn a lot. You will know yourself far better than any other exercise. You will be put in high stress and high strain situations, and then you will learn more about you, where you are wrong, where you can be better. And the thing is, when you're an entrepreneur, you really go out and start selling or making your product. You will be compared with the best available to that particular customer at that point of time. You're making chocolates, they'll compare you to the best of like Nestle and all that.
Yes.
So you have to really figure out which product you can make best. Number one. Even before that, you have to figure out which person you want to sell this.
Correct.
Second one is which product you can make in such a way that the other companies, when they come, the customer still thinks you. Now, this is a process, right? They won't teach you in engineering, or they won't teach you in MBA also, honestly speaking.
Yes.
But this needs a different kind of mindset, different kind of thing. I would suggest anyone who wants to join start a company on their own, they should go through a process of, because our current education system doesn't teach them. I would suggest them to actually go through a 6 months of, there are a lot of accelerators, there are a lot of companies like that, which will help you from zero to, going to one, as we call it 0 to 1. There are a lot of accelerators. For example, you want to start a company in space technologies, you would figure out which accelerators are in that particular thing, and then you approach them.
Yeah.
And it's not, you probably have like 30-40 accelerators in India today. And then it is a very, very serious commitment in terms of, if you have a business background, your family is from business, you will have some things that you learn while you're growing up. That's one part of it. If that is not there, you have a double learning to do. And then even when you have your family, that's when you have done a business before. Second thing is you have to go through that process of joining accelerator, because the other thing is, when these accelerators and these startups meet that happen, you go meet like-minded people.
Yes.
Then you will do a self-correction in terms of, hey, I'm wrong here, I'm right here, will I be able to do? That kind of correction happens.
Okay, fine, sir. One more thing is like, being the freshers who are like just attending the campus interviews, how they have to build their resume. What are the main important points they have to put in the resume?
Okay.
Which generally attracts interviewer.
So the best thing is that you assume that the other person who's reading it
Yes.
has no time at all.
Correct.
You assume that the other person doesn't have time. If he doesn't open your resume, there is nothing we could do.
Yes.
But on-campus interviews have this privilege that they will go through resume and will say they like it.
Yes.
So that problem is solved because it's an on-campus. Off-campus, you still have it. You approach, you send your profile to 100 different HRs. Some of them don't even open, and that's okay. They can't do it. It's manually impossible to do that.
Correct.
That's why you have these companies which will implement solutions like AAP solutions, which resume has better content, only top up, show me only those resumes.
Yes,
Those solutions come up. Now let's look at, considering that the first problem is solved, which is HR or the person who's interviewing opens your resume, you have to assume that the other person has only less than a second or probably a second. In that 1 second, how do you ensure that he reads for 10 seconds?
Correct.
In 1 second, he looks at it, use better. For example, you put a logo of Java certificate. You put a logo of AWS certificate. So in that 1 second, you have to ensure that this person spends time and then looks at for 10 seconds.
Yes.
The moment you make it from 1 second to 10 seconds, you've done 50-60% of the job. And then that is, in 1 second evaluation generally happens based on what certifications you have, what logos you put. And that's why these companies, right, AWS, they will allow you, for someone who's passed their certification, they allow you to put their logo on your resume.
Correct.
And they know that this is a great value. So what I suggest students to do is to put a lot of images. For example, in off-campus scenario, if you allow, since you are a student of IRE, they put your logo as IRE, he's from IRE, so let me look at your resume. So they have to get as much certificates as possible. And then the same thing, right? When it is for experienced people, you know what they do? They'll tell, I have generated $1 million in the first month.
Yeah.
So they put these numbers so that in 1 second they look at for 30 seconds.
Yes, number matter.
Numbers matters. Here you have to put imagery, you have to capture their attention. Now that you've made that 1 second to 10 seconds, you have to ensure that they generally what they do is they look at your marks.
Correct.
Second thing they look at is what projects you do.
Yes.
And then you have to, marks is obviously better to put in graphics, say 71 to 35% it has gone up. You put it in such a way that they capture and then they read it. I remember some resumes that I have personally shortlisted where I spent about 5 minutes to understand what marks he got. I mean, they complicate so much. There's a first year, so much, this one, second year. That actually creates, you are saying that, hey, don't select my resume. It is as good as saying don't select my resume.
Yes.
You have to ensure that there is no cognitive load, as it is called. You should not have any cognitive, which is how much marks does this resume have? I look at it, I should figure out this.
Yeah.
Right? Because marks is some way not reflecting on the student, but that's the easiest way of someone to select or not select for next round. Right? So you have to create very, very simple imagery. Best is to have branded certifications, AWS certified, Sun certified, or Oracle certified, that kind of things. Next thing you should do, guys, your marks should be very broadly. You don't need to tell deep and all. They will ask you in interviews, let that be there.
Yes.
In your resumes, you will tell how much you got here, what was your growth. If you have ensured that you are always 10th, you are so much, inter, you are so much, and engineering, you are so much, you have to show the graph up. And then when you tell that, okay, this guy is actually performing well. If you're constant, that is even better. If you're falling, then there is worry. And then you have to, if that is the case, for example, you did 80% in 10th, 70% in intermediate, and 60% going down, then you have to put it, you should not put it in graph saying that I'm kind of going down person. You have to put it in different format. You have to tell probably in my max, 10th class was 100, inter 100, intermediate was 110%, engineering was 100%. Then you have to highlight those things which are good in your thing. Now that you have taken from 1 second to 10 seconds, they will look at your project, and your project should be something that interests them. And you have to tell in very simple language. There should be 2 sections in the project. One, that anyone who reads, HR who reads knows what the project is. It is a simple English, simple language which tells, I have ensured that, for example, e-commerce example, very simple example. My project helps people sell their flowers or flower bouquets, and any shop can use it. It's a published. That HR can understand. So this is what
simple English.
In engineering, that's what HR would understand. In technology, you should say, I have implemented this technology. So this is how it works. And that's a broader explanation in depth. Now you have you've done all the fantastic things, which is resume is open because you're an on-campus guy. Second thing is you ensure that he stays for 1 second with your certificates. Third thing is you ensure that from 10 seconds he spends over 30 seconds with your beautiful writer. And they have to do it in such a way that it captures attention. You will say database is this, right? You have to, in fact, the best thing is when you say that I have selected MySQL as my database. And then you would say, not selected this because of this. They are like very broad things. Probably put it at a later point of time. Selected this out of the evaluation. I have selected this from my evaluation. What have you not selected? You're telling that interviewer, in your interview, you ask me this question and why did I evaluate, on what basis?
Okay.
So that kind of interest. So basically, interview selection, right? It happens at this level.
Yes.
The more deeper you take the interviewer, the chances of you getting selected is very high.
Yes, correct.
He spent 1 second, you ensure that you showed your images. Then 10 seconds, you ensure that he understands the very basic points, marks and what project, HR. Third thing, you wrote technologies, and then you are leaving another section saying that ask me these interview questions.
Correct.
This happens the moment an interviewer spends more time on your profile. Right?
And he'll be asking more questions from your resume itself.
Not just that. I mean, see, if someone spends more time with any other person, it is clear indication that he has got keen interest on this person.
Correct.
So your interview should be as long as possible, and not necessarily. Some people get selected in like half an hour. He is selected and done. I mean, that's like 100. You want to select 1,000 people, you have 1 day, then you will select this guy is good.
Yes.
But otherwise, like very interview, we have a good time and all that. You have to ensure that the other person is interested and he asks these questions, and then you are very well prepared for it. And that should be you have to entice the other person to ask this question.
Yes.
Okay.
So, sir, there are some students who are technically strong, but they will be weak with their communication skills. So, how they need to prepare themselves with this communication skills?
Now let's define what is communication skill in this case, and then come back saying that he can good it or bad it.
Yes.
Communication skill is explaining the other person in a language that he understands, and then he is not trying to figure out past tense, present tense, and
Yes.
very, very simple.
Simple.
The better way to do that is actually to improve on your thing, saying that take up a very simple thing. For example, your project or your family. How well can you explain it to others? Right? You have to learn that skill. It's an important, very important skill. Not just here. For example, a traffic police stops your two-wheeler
Yes.
and then says, "Chalan, and why didn't you bring your license?" You have to explain them in a very simple language instead of confusing him. Right?
Yes.
And this interview selection is no different than that.
Correct.
Except that if you're stressed, that's a different part. There also you're stressed. Traffic police is fining you, asking you for 500 rupees for fine for that. Now here the reason is that one, if you're not sure about the topic, there's nothing anyone can do.
Right.
Like you're not sure about your project, you're not sure about operating systems where he's asking, then there is nothing to do.
Yes.
Now your question was, someone's really good at operating systems, but he's unable to communicate.
Yes. Correct.
First thing he needs to do is he needs to slow down. For example, when I start talking slowly, I think a lot. The difference between a fantastic public extempore speaker is that you have to slow down very, very well. You have to say operating systems is this, and this. When you slow down, what happens is the other person understands that you're comfortable at that space of the speech.
Correct.
When he understands it, he is comfortable fine with that, right? And then when you're talking sense, if you say operating system is nothing but a database, then he thinks that he's making no sense, and he will probably. But assuming that you know the subject, if you talk slowly, you will pick up words that are correct or not.
Yes.
Very slowly.
Yes.
They will have enough patience to understand as long as you are correct.
Correct.
I think they should do two things. One is, on a long-term perspective, they start explaining things to different people. It could be an explaining movie story. That is also good in a language. For example, in this case, English, right? In a language, English language, you would explain movie story of something like Bob. That helps. Second thing is, on your topics, for example, on your resume, everything that you have to explain your friends in a very simple language, slowly. When you do this, the preparation itself reflects in the selection process.
Yes. So there are first year students who are very fresh to the engineering or graduation. It means like they are kids to the college. So how they have to prepare themselves for the campus interviews, starting from the first year itself.
Okay. So when someone joins engineering, right, they're fresh out of their +2 and then they're coming to a professional course called engineering.
Correct.
One thing they have to do is, it is better they are exposed to the reality. Let's say campus interview is reality, or more like industry is reality. And they are also getting into 18 years, right? Their life is also reality for them. So it is better they are exposed. For example, like the campus selection process or a preparation process, the placement preparation process is exposed to them as early as possible. And the advantage that they would have, first years or second years would have, and compared with third years and final years who are like short-term attending, is that they have a longer time. They can prepare well and they can do foundational work very well. Is that they can prepare for the selection process right from the time they like first years, they're finishing their first year. They can start preparation from that. And the kind of preparation they would go is significantly different than what these guys would go. Is that they will have to work on something like very fundamental, like a habit. They have to figure out which habits will help you. See, fundamentally, if you look at there's a book called Atomic Habits, right? It's a fantastic book actually. It tells that anything that you want to do, you will do in small habits basically. For example, you want to attend a campus and then get into a product company, right? If that's your goal that you put. You have to convert that into very, very, very simple strategy. For example, let me say Ishwar, right? You have to define yourself. Ishwar is dash. Ishwar is a systems engineer in a product company. You have to define that. And when you define it, you have to tell, okay, which small habits will have product habits. Then you will say, product companies, what do? They look at algorithms. They look at someone who's good at data structures. And you will start building subjects from them. Whereas in the third year, final year, you will start with the subjects are already made. Whether you're good at it, bad at it, that's where it stops. Of course, you can do a short-term preparation, but there you will have the flexibility, you have the time and the luxury of time. And what you could do is you can work on latest algorithms, what's happening. For example, you want to figure out what is the latest artificial intelligence algorithm that's being used in computer vision. So when you look at that, how are those algorithms different? What is being taught in curriculum? And you have to, when you do this ground up, right, it reflects when you come to that final year and then you talk. you can easily figure out a person who understands, right? When you go attend face an interview and then say, in computer vision, this algorithm is, the interviewer understand, boss, this guy has done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
He's not come here with a half-baked
Correct. Anyhow, like we'll be considering students who are very top for training from the third year itself. So we consider students who are really top. I mean, top 100 students will pick up and will start training them from the second year itself. And coming to the third year, we'll give campus training for them. So the first year they have to do at least groundwork in the first year, and once they come to the second year, they'll be automatically trained by the trainers in the college.
Correct, exactly.
So thank you, sir. Whatever we have asked you at the first, all the doubts got clear. But there are some questions which are there from the student side. So generally when they attend the interviews, so there will be frequently asked questions. So how they have to answer that question, rather than like thinking about what they have given answer, like right or wrong, but then when they are sitting in front of the interviewer, how they have to answer and how they have to make themselves before attending the interview. For example, there are some students who don't shave, who don't have proper dress sense, who don't know how to sit in front of the interviewer, and there are some students who get nervous and forget everything what they wanted to actually talk in front of the interviewer. So there are some questions I wanted to ask you and wanted to understand from you, like how they have to actually answer to such type of questions.
Yes.
So first question is like, how the basic question which interviewer asked to the students is, introduce yourself. So how they have to answer that question.
See, introduce yourself is a more nice breaking question.
Correct.
Hey, tell me something about yourself is like, okay, now I'm going to get into more serious question, but it's a format like, hey, how are you doing?
Correct.
Instead of saying, hey, how are you doing? In interview setup, they'll say, tell me something about yourself. That helps the interviewer understand the kind of impression that the interviewee has on himself. So, for example, if I tell I am a religious person, I'm a this and that and all that, he understands that this guy is a more religious person.
Yeah.
It gives us some basic understanding of himself.
Yeah.
Now, coming to what a interviewee should answer to that question, it is a person to person dependent thing. But generally, what interviewer expects is you tell your name, because he comes from nowhere and he is just probably he told his name and say, hey, I am Ishwar and the interviewer for today. Probably he told his name and he wants to know your name. He wants to know what your interests are. He wants to know your family. He wants to, because basically he's saying, hey, come into my company, come into my professional family. So he's doing that. So he wants to have some basic understanding on it. Rarely that interview will say, hey, this guy, I'm not going to take him, or I'm going to take him just because you said your right answer or whatever answer you get.
Yeah.
That's not some evaluation question, but more an ice-breaking question. Generally, the expectation is that you tell your name, you tell about which branch you are from, you tell which proper you're from, where is your native place or where you come from, and you have to tell your favorite subjects. I mean, probably tell your family. I have like 2 siblings, 1 sister, and what do they do and all that. So he gets a overall picture on where do you stand in terms of, if he knows that you have like 2 brothers who are like already working as software engineer, he knows that you understand some pieces of software engineering, you are already exposed to that. You come from a business family, you say this, and then he understands, okay, he understands this piece of it. It's not an evaluation saying that I'll take this guy, I'll not take this guy. More a nice breaking question. It is very important to keep it as simple and not necessarily 1 or 2 lines. It will be another like 30 seconds of it, saying that my name is this, I come from here, I am from this background, this is my engineering, my father's name is this, and I have 2 brothers who are doing this. And that gives a very fundamental introduction to the other person. And then if interviewer wants to know something in specific, for example, you say that my brother works for Amazon or whatever you tell him, then he has a specific interest in asking that. You let the interviewer ask that question and then you answer that.
Okay. So one more thing related to it. So interviewer will be generally asking a question like, what do you know about the company? So how students should basically learn, I mean, otherwise they have to see in the website all the details about the company and then come down to the interview and answer on it. So how they have to actually search for it?
Okay. When they ask you this question saying that what do you know about Infosys or why did you come to Infosys, or for that matter any company, is that they expect people, because you really want to And look at any other election process. If they come to you and then say, hey, you know what, I'm coming to you because you are this and this, then that creates interest in the other person. You should, as an engineering student who are coming, you should understand the technologies on which the company is working.
Yeah.
And it's very important that you understand what is the total people, which clients they serve, and these are good things about the company.
Yes.
That you see, if you look at, for example, Wipro is a company that you're going to attend interview.
Yeah.
If you search Wipro in that, the top 10, if you know the top 10, that is more than enough.
Correct.
It might happen that you forget things, but if you get to just read that, for example, each link gives you about like 1,000 words, not 200, 300 words, that's all it gives.
Yeah.
So you read top 10, which is the first 10 results. If you know about that, then you know about that particular company.
Yeah.
And generally what happens is the news comes up. For example, they recently won a big award. TCS recently got a fantastic AI implementation on digital. So you know those things, the latest happening, so they know that. And the other thing is, since it is an engineering management, it's a management, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
You are expected to know revenue, profits, and business areas.
At least not knowing in detail, at least they need to know on what technologies they are working on.
What technologies they are working on, who are their main client,
Yes.
which geography they are on.
Yes.
That should be decent enough. And it is important to know that information. You can tell that I don't know about the company, but that is an evaluation question, I would say.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about the company, the other person says, we are so and so, he doesn't even know. Then he will say, if you got the same marks as someone who knows it, they will pick the other person not you.
Yeah. Okay. Even like we suggest students generally to go with the job description before attending the interview. That is how we suggest them, because job description completely says you what is that company is all about and what technologies it is working on. Also, that is how we generally suggest them.
Yeah.
And the main question again, which will be asked mostly in the interview is, where do you see yourself in next 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years? So how they have to students can answer to this question.
Okay, this is a mix of both evaluation and non-evaluation.
Correct.
Is that if a student tells that next 2 years I will want to pursue my higher education. So then they know that this guy is not a long-term player in the company.
Yes.
So that is an evaluation model of it. How do you see yourself in like 5 years, 6 years? It tells the other person also that this guy is a long-term player. He is actually thinking long-term. He's not like. See, generally what happens is, whatever we teach in engineering, when they go there, the application changes a lot. It changes from company to company also.
Right.
And that's why they have training session even for laterals, saying that, hey, get introduced to 15 days, you get introduced to our company.
Yes.
And having said that, for freshers, it will be generally for 6 months, they will not be productively contributing anything.
Yes.
Now, if you're saying in 2 years, I want to go shift and then do my post-graduation, and 6 months they teach you, 1.5 years from there you start working.
Yeah.
You're at your peak performance. When I say peak performance, in terms of the bottom layer, like you say higher management, junior, middle management, and what, that you're at your peak performance generally in the 2 to 6 years bracket.
Okay.
So 0 to 2 years, you're just supporting another executive for peak performance.
Yeah.
2 to 6 years is when you're really contributing to the company. That's where they are investing in you. At that point of time, you say, I want to shift the company. It sends a very wrong signal.
Yeah.
And anyone who joins a company should stick to that company, unless and otherwise there is he is not happy with the thing. And for salary reasons, so definitely no. Because the last thing that you should think at that level, at least for the first 5-6 years of your career, salary should not be the criteria. Now, if you're happy with the company, you're happy with your manager, you should continue with that. That also means that you should answer in a long-term perspective.
Correct.
If your interest is in education, this was a scenario like when students used to ask me like 10 years back or so. That's a tough answer for me also. This guy, his heart is in MS.
Yeah.
Now he wants to 1 year, he wants to work somewhere. Now,
Yes.
what would I answer? Now the scenario is different, right? Most of the education happens online now. There is no postgraduate course in this.
Correct.
You will work from here. Like there are different companies which provide online courses and all that. So you can work with the company and then do it. You should tell them that I will work like 5 years, I will be this in this company. 5 years, you have to ask them, 5 years, what can I be in your company?
Yeah.
Then they know that you're interested in it, you're a long-term player in that company.
Yes.
And any education, for that matter, you don't need to actually spend it time. Money is one part of it. Money was there previously, money is there now.
Yes.
But there will be cost of education.
Yes.
But time, right? You don't need to take 2 years off and then go learn something. That's not the case. I mean, that's waste of time, honestly.
Yes.
You should pursue whatever you want to learn. There are free courses, there are online courses. You have to learn whatever you want. Sitting at your work, I mean, along with that, you can pursue.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So this question will be basically asked just to understand whether the candidate is for long-term stay or short-term stay.
Long-term stay or short-term stay, and then is he thinking not it is not a easy long-term or not. It is to understand the that particular interviewee's mindset, saying that 2 years I'll do this, 4 years I'll do this. You have to be a really long-term player for anyone. In every relationship, it could be professional. You have to be a long-term player, like fly-by-night operators, right? That kind of thing should not.
Okay. So again, sir, one more question is like students will be basically from EC students, EC background, electronic and communication, and they will be interviewed for IT company. That is generally actually this IT company consider all these branches, but when it comes to the question, they'll ask you. Like you're from basically EC background, so why do you want to shift yourself towards the IT?
In my previous answers, I mentioned that when
Yes,
you're
you
doing
have
that
already.
mention, so what you have to do is you have to create sufficient witnesses, sufficient proofs saying that your heart is there in IT. That's very important. Number two is you have to understand that no matter whichever engineering, whatever happens around the world, it's all related to IT today, right? It's all related to how do you use a programmable chipset to work together. You want to build a huge infrastructure. You want to build like the 100-floor apartments. What happens? The first crucial parts are all happening on a computer. So essentially, you have to understand that piece of it and explain that your view of it to the interviewer, saying that I like, for example, Intel designs chipsets, but is it being done on pen paper? No, it's all done on tools.
Yes.
It's all your knowledge is being applied on computer science to take it. If it is a programmable role, you have sufficient demonstration with witnesses saying that I am interested in this and that's why I am doing here.
Yeah. Okay. And one more question is like, sir, what will be your strengths and weaknesses? What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Okay. So this is more to again first question in terms of tell me something about yourself.
Yes, sir.
It is a next level of question. Tell me
I
something.
mean, how they have to generally define the strength and weakness here.
So it is important to know your strengths and weaknesses,
Right.
and then you need to check with your friends. For example, generally what happens is in a slam book, right, when someone's asking about engineering, the other friends write saying that, hey, you are this, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And that is their view of your strengths and weaknesses. And also you will have your strengths and weaknesses. So it is always important to know what are your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And at the same time, you have to also understand what you like a lot, what you don't like a lot.
Correct.
So when you know this, right, you will form a set of strengths and a set of weaknesses. Weakness is something that is not helping you to work at your 100% potential.
Correct.
Strength is something that is helping you to deliver better results, even at a non-optimum level, and then you're actually pursuing it with a lot of heart and all that.
Yeah.
And people appreciate you for that. So it is important that you know your weaknesses and both strengths, and then generally, if unless someone tells this is my weakness, tells that you know what, I have inclination towards joining ISIS, or I want to become I want to join a terrorist organization. That's a strong weakness. No one will take that company.
Correct.
But other than that, small weaknesses that there, companies will not dislike you. That I have not seen such an interviewer ever. No one has that opinion also, honestly. You have to, whether he knows about himself is what they look at.
Yeah.
And when you tell about your strengths and you talk about your weaknesses, when they tell you your strengths, they should see your passion and love towards that. When you tell about it, the same thing with hobbies also. No? What is your hobby?
Yeah.
You tell, I like dance, and then there is no emotion or nothing like that. Like, wow. There's no energy in it, there's no passion, emotion.
Correct.
So you should come out with that, and strengths you have to tell this is my strength.
Yeah.
And then it is better you tell that the third person. For example, I say my strength is I'm a good data guy. You give me any data, I'll tell it. That is a singular first person strength. I'm telling about myself. It is better to tell third person talking about myself. My professor thinks that I am good at this. My heart is in it.
Yes.
So when a third person is telling it, you are also giving witness in that. And look at what LinkedIn does. There is something called a section called recommendations.
Yes.
It is not me telling that I like product management. People around me who work with me, who study with me, when they tell I like product management, he's good in product management, it is telling the interviewer, in case I'm applying for a job, they look at it and say, hey, this guy is really good at product management. Similarly, in strengths and weaknesses, you should tell that this is third person is telling it. Weakness, I think is my weakness. My friends also think they're my weakness. I'm working upon it.
Sir, generally students will be getting nervous when they are interviewed. So how to overcome that public speaking?
public speaking is a separate subject in itself.
Correct.
It is a, I think there is a book on that. I don't know how to, I think there is by Dale Carnegie on public speaking. So, it is a course, it is a skill that you have to learn, like how you learn ride a cycle, you have to learn public cycle. It's a thing that you have to learn.
Yeah.
Some people get it by nature because their environment, they are being brought up, their parent talks to a community, he is a community, and so he's been observing, he gets it, and then he can talk without any inertia, without any hesitation. So that's not the case with everyone. So it's a skill that needs to be learned. Public speaking, in what happens is, in today's scenario, public speaking has become one of the important skills to have.
Yeah.
And see, for example, you will not be, unless you become a very public facing. For example, Apple has their conference every year, and then how many people will speak? Probably like what, in a company of like few thousands or probably lakhs, 5 to 10 people speak, and they're like experts in that. The best way to learn public speaking is actually to listen to people who are good at public speaking.
Right.
You attend to them, and that is one skill that is like huge. Like in order to 500-600 people, how do you talk? That's one also the problem. They don't expect every student to be that, because they know that in a company of Apple size or probably Infosys size, they have like a handful of 100 people who will do that, and that's the expectation from that job role. However, there is a difference. You have 10 people inside a meeting, and then you are expected. Everyone, even a fresher, is expected to do that.
Yes.
And that comes when you start, when colleges create that forum saying that, hey, you know what, every Saturday we have this thing that you need to have a discussion on a topic that we give.
Yes.
It could be a topic that is taught to you in this particular week, you should talk.
Yeah.
And then the more you practice, the better you become. But talking before 10 people is a must skill today.
Yes.
Public speaking is a skill. You have it, fantastic. You don't have it, nothing's going to change. And coming to how do you learn public speaking is that you have to practice it like bicycling, right? You have to learn it. Every week you practice that. Every week with your friends you go talk about it. And then I pick up saying in Sanskrit, it says Satsangatvam, Nisangatvam and all that. Right? Nisangatvam, Nirmohatvam. So everything that you learn, everything that you want to achieve always starts with something called a satsang, which means you go around fantastic people who are your well-wishers and contributing to your positive life. You have to look at that forums and you go join them. There are a lot of forums inside the college. There are forums outside the college.
Yes.
You go talk to them. For example, there is a conference that's happening, a startup meet that's happening in Hyderabad somewhere. You go there, uninvited. You go there. You go talk to people. The best way to start communicating is to actually become a listener first, rather than a talker.
Right.
You go there, you listen to them. Active listening is a fantastic skill to have.
Yeah.
This person told this, and then this person told this. What is that I can learn? What is it? You go there as a receiver of information. You go there as a learner rather than a speaker.
Yeah.
A better speaker is someone who's a better learner before.
Right.
That's how you go.
Okay. And connecting to the same, how do you spend your spare time?
Spend spare time is essentially what are your hobbies and how do you want to do it. Basically, to second level of information, your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
They are asking what are your hobbies there. It's a part evaluation question.
Yeah.
In fact, you say that I like dance, and then you have to tell how much you like dance.
Yes.
It is the not the hobby, but intensity of the hobby they are looking at. For example, you say I like painting, and then they ask you 1 or 2 questions inside painting. What do you think about Ravi Varman's painting? How is Mona Lisa painting better?
Yes.
You answer those questions. They are supposed to be intensity of the hobby. Any interviewer, any company only wants people who do that deep.
Yeah.
For example, no one will tell you to go deep inside something. When they're looking at people who don't need to be told what needs to be done. Right? So, for example, you like, it's called what? Calligraphy.
Yes.
Yeah, you like calligraphy. And how much have you learned about it? Like Steve Jobs' whole company evolved from his interest in calligraphy. Right? It is not, at that point of time when Steve was doing, how many people would have loved calligraphy? 100,000 people would have loved it.
Yes.
But he's the one who took it to that level. Anything that you like, how deep do you like is what they're looking at.
Okay. So, at the end of the interview, interviewer will be asking the question like, do you have any questions to ask me? So, which type of questions should student ask to the interviewer?
there are two contexts in which this question is asked.
Correct.
If your interview was not well,
Yes.
right, you performed bad on that day, it was
Yes.
not your day, and then interview asked that question.
Huh.
You know that somehow you created this thing that you're not getting selected. It should not happen, but you know that internally that you have not done well that day.
Yes.
And someone asks it, you will not be in a mood to ask any questions actually.
Yes.
And there is nothing wrong with it. You can tell that I don't have any questions at that point. That is also fine with that.
Okay.
But when you are average to you're sure about asking me, you should ask what is the company, what is the product that's going to work on, what
Correct.
is the nature of the
Correct.
job that he will get into,
Correct.
and is there a work location predefined for this particular job,
Yes.
and which technologies should I brush up to even before joining the company.
Yeah.
So when you ask these questions, you're in fact, if the thing is that I don't know whether to select this guy or not, you're in that state,
Correct.
and then you ask interesting question, he'll tilt towards I want to select this guy.
Right. Right. True.
If you're not done bad, if you've done bad, there's nothing you could do. But if you ask that question, saying that you're at mid, I don't know whether to take this guy or not, and you ask him interesting question, what technology should I prepare?
Yeah.
Is this work location predefined? What projects will I work on? What technologies will I work on? You ask these questions, he tilts towards getting selecting you.
Selecting. Yes.
And that's an interesting way of see. He has been asking questions, you've been answering. He has gave you the ball now, and you decide what you want to do.
Yes.
You will put him you're playing tennis, right? You're playing well, and then now you got a fantastic opportunity. He is ready to get. You would want to put an ace, right? So you'll ask a question. You'll ask questions that he will think about. You know what? Why don't we take this guy? He seems to be really asking intelligent questions.
Correct.
Asking questions is a fantastic skill to have.
Yeah.
Only when you ask good questions can answers emerge. When you ask a question, you tell your interest level, and he tells you something interesting you want to learn.
Correct.
Most important point here is not just asking question. When he tells you, are you actively listening? You tell which technologies will I be working on, and then he tells something, you're not listening to it. And I say not listening, actively listening to it.
Yeah.
Then you're actually killing the whole experience.
Correct.
But when he tells you, you will be working on say Java or Python. Okay, Java. So then you have to continue saying that I'm a Java certified. You tell good things.
Yeah.
That's important skill.
Yeah. It's a good answer, sir. Thank you so much. And the last question is like, how students need to groom themselves before going to an interview. So it can be on their personal or on the subject.
See, you have to look your best on that day.
Correct.
What it tells is that you are giving sufficient and more seriousness to that particular interview.
Yes.
That's what, without telling a word, if you look at your best attire, the best of yourself on that day, whatever it is, best definition is something that you have to define for yourself. But you have to be at your best, and your concern should say, this is my best.
Yeah.
And when you're at your best, the other person will get this feeling saying that, hey, you know what, he's giving sufficient thing to this, sufficient seriousness to this. He's very interested in our company. He tells that without answering one word. He will not ask you a question. You don't need to answer, but he understood that you're serious towards it.
Yes.
And that's on the personal side. Professionally, he should look at brushing up. He would have already brushed up, right? At that day, how your mindset defines whether you will be selected or not.
Yeah.
If you go with the mindset saying that 100 people, my chances are less, and that creates a ripple effect, and then saying that I might not be selected. But that day you should go and say, and I'm coming out with an offer letter.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that you can. When you're going in, either they give you offer letter, if they don't have that model, at least the name that's printed on that should have my name. And you should be 100% confident of it.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, sir. I hope all the queries have got cleared from students' side as well as I had got some queries. So it is clear. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me in this forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.